What's up, everybody? It's a Red Baron 59. If you hear an occasional shout or cry, please excuse that because I have my little co-star with me today. But I was going to go ahead and record this commentary. I've been thinking about doing it for a while, and I was curious as to what you think about this idea. I've been asked a couple of times about any tips I might have on improving, how to get better. And what I thought about doing was maybe doing a map-by-map series about some of the places I find easy to control on certain maps. And so just let me know what you think about that, whether or not you think that would be a good series to consider. Just going through and posting my best gameplays on each map and talking about how I got them, the strats I approached, and everything else. And what I'm going to do now is just kind of jump into what I have learned over the last couple of years about, just playing better, playing smarter, and always succeeding, I guess, against difficult opponents a lot of times too. So I know I've used this gameplay before, but I thought it would be the best example for this. It's my most recent, I think, nice gameplay that I've gotten in a little bit. And I think that this map for a while was one that I really struggled with, which is another reason why I think that this is one of the ones I prefer to use. And you see me go to this spot a lot, and I do a couple of really reckless things, but that's because we're trying to get this initial lead. And that's why I think a lot of times I'm not always the best guy to explain this stuff, because I do tend to play to win a lot more than I play for kills. Now, kills are always obviously something I want. I want to get big games. I want to get big streaks. But personally, I prefer to win as many games as possible, because I don't really think that having a high KD really means anything if you lose all the time. It's like, a dude that scores a bunch of points on a pro team but loses every game because his team sucks and he's not a good team player. It doesn't really matter in the end of it all. Nobody remembers a loser. And so my whole opinion is to, push to win as much as possible and get the kills if you can. But the first thing I think that I learned as time went along, and the biggest lesson for me, was to reload as little as possible. And there's a twofold reason for this. The first is, if you reload less often and you wait till you absolutely have to, then it forces you to be more careful with your shots and, really forces you to be as accurate as you could possibly be. Because if you're reloading all the time, then there's less penalty for you spraying and praying. So, and I think that's true, because I started practicing that during Black Ops 2. I started really telling myself, I don't need to reload yet. I just got 12 bullets. I can still get another person. And so, I would wait till the last possible minute to reload. And, also that reduces the amount of times you're going to get killed, honestly. Because if you think about all the ways you die, which I think is another important thing to know, is think about how you die. Think about where you go wrong. Just like any other sport, look at the things that you're messing up on. And, if you're doing one thing a lot that gets you killed a lot, then you probably shouldn't do it, because that's probably what's getting you, that's probably one of the reasons why you're not succeeding at what you're trying to succeed at. And so what I try to do is reload as little as possible, because a lot of times I find that I get killed while reloading. That's one of the biggest ways I die. Now, probably the second most popular way for me to die is going around corners. And what I mean by that is going around corners. Literally, when you walk around a place that you can't see, especially a spot that has two different directions that somebody could be on, and you've got blind spots, it's just like driving down the highway. If there's blind spots around you to your left and right, then you're obviously, and you're driving out into traffic, you're increasing the chances you're either going to run over somebody on a motorcycle or get into a car accident with another car. Just the same applies to playing this game. If you walk out into a blind spot where you can't see somebody on your left or right, there's a good chance, if you don't know for sure where they're spawning, that you might get killed. And even if you do know where, there might be somebody that's outside of his spawn. And that kind of leads me into my third point, is probably the most important thing for you to know is the spawns in this game. Where are people spawning most of the time? How do you evaluate that and decide, if all of my teammates are here, then that probably means that they're here. And Domination is one of those games, especially where, if you screw up on the spawns, then chances are there goes your kill streak. If I don't play the spawns correctly and I don't back off when I need to, or I'm not aware that my team is all at the enemy flag, I can get away with being the only guy over there killing people for a little bit. That's not a problem. But when your entire team moves over to an area, then suddenly, there's a very good chance you're going to cause a spawn flip, and you're going to end up dying because you made that bad choice about where to be and what was the safest and most intelligent place for you to go. And so, I guess that knowing the spawns, especially in free-for-all, and this is one thing somebody was asking me about was after playing free-for-all with me, it's probably the most valuable thing in the game. If you know the spawns on every game mode, if you know if I go here and I'm killing people here, then they're going to spawn here, then you're going to be a lot more prepared, and you're going to be a lot less likely to walk into a really big group of people, you know, which happens to me a lot. Like a lot of times when I'm making mistakes, it's typically I'm reading the spawns wrong, and I'll walk into a group of 4, 5, 6 guys because I thought that they were going to be here, but instead they were here. And so I think the spawns are probably the next most important thing. Now after that, I would think that positioning, and this especially applies in search and destroy. Positioning is essentially saying that if you're standing on his head glitch, you know, like it's basically how you decide when to and when not to challenge people. If they're on a head glitch, you know, then you should probably not challenge them. If you have a short range weapon and they have a long range weapon and you're at medium to long range, then you should probably not challenge them. And it really comes down to deciding when you should and should not try to kill somebody. And, you know, positioning is what's going to essentially decide how successful you are really in the long term with gunfights. Like, because I know where they're about to be, and you'll see me do this a lot. Like, I'm always making a point to be in a spot that makes sense. Like, if I'm here in this window, people are less likely to notice me there. I'm more likely to win the gunfight because I can back around the corner. You know, I can crouch down against this wall and not get killed. Well, on the other hand, if they were to, you know, if they were to be in that same place and I challenged them, then I'd be really likely to lose said gunfight. Now, obviously, too, if you rush out into the middle of the map a lot, you're gonna die a lot more. You know, there's certain places you just don't need to go on the map if you don't want to die. And you know, at the same time, though, there's kind of like the risk-reward factor in this. You know, if you don't go to the high traffic areas and push for the kills, then you're just not really going to get them, you know. I mean, you have to go to the high traffic areas, so you have to be close to where people are spawning, and you have to know where people are most likely to go if you want to get a lot of kills. But at the same time, you can't be recklessly approaching that. Like, you'll notice that I stick to this side of the map a lot, and there's a reason why I like this side of the map, because it's a little more protected, it's a little easier for me to get away, there's a lot more head glitches and spots for me to be a little sneakier as I approach people. Now this spot right here is really kind of dumb for me to go, but I was pretty confident I was going to stay alive there, so I wasn't really worried about it. But part of the reason why I keep going over there too is to keep them spawning here, and this is why I like this side of the map, because it's easy for me to kill them in the spawn. And so, you know, I guess positioning is just knowing where to be and always putting yourself in the most advantageous place for you to win every gunfight. And here's where I mess up, and this is part of the reason why I chose this one. You know, the reason why I don't get the DNA in this particular gameplay is I get scared at this point, and this guy knew where I was, and instead of deciding to get out of there, and yeah, granted I could have maybe killed them, but you have to know when to get out of a place too. You have to say, all right, I've worn out my welcome here essentially, and I should probably move on. Like if I jumped to the 3-story top of that building, I might have killed him because that was actually the last guy I needed for the DNA. Now if I had gone ahead and gotten up top, all right, I would have probably gotten that DNA and maybe continued on to get on like a 70, 80, 90 kill streak, because I was close to streaks the second time. It could have been, you know, a really, really nice gameplay instead of just a nice gameplay. It could have been something like, holy shit, he got that. And you know, that's the mistake I tend to make. I get nervous when I realize I'm at that point. And you know, there's a difference between playing cautiously and playing scared, and it's important to know the difference between doing two things. You know, you always have to play with confidence, you know, because you're gonna die. It's the essence of Call of Duty, and that's another thing. That's probably my biggest tip for everybody, is to try not to get frustrated. You know, if you get frustrated, it's a scientifically proven fact. It's part of your biology. If you get frustrated and you start playing frustrated, you start yelling, you know, you're going to do worse. You're going to start making more mistakes. Your brain starts to lose its functionality as it gets angry. And there's a lot of reasons for this. Your brain does attempt to shut itself down, so to prevent any excess damage from stress, etc. And it goes into the fight or flight state when you become overly agitated, essentially. So you have to do, you know, and this applies to gaming. Like if you get too mad, you're just not going to do well. And so you have to try to stay as calm as possible. But remember, high traffic areas, positioning, stay on head glitches, don't go out into the open middle portions of a map. Know when you've overstayed your welcome and move out of there. Play confident but not reckless. At the same time, dealing with snipers as well and shotgun guys, there's just not a whole lot you can do. But personally, I found that when trying to turn around on somebody, drop shotting tends to work better than jump shotting, because it takes a little longer to double jump. and turn around on somebody than it does to drop shot, and people expect you to drop shot less than they expect you to double jump in this game, because everybody fucking double jumps. And you know, I think that it's important to you to remember to single jump as well. People don't expect you to do the classic COD maneuvers. They expect you to double jump all the time. That's why scuff kids are kind of funny. But anyway, guys, that pretty much covers everything I have to say. Stay mobile, you know, always know where the high traffic areas are and take advantage of those to your benefit. Always go to those places and, you know, kill. And in the end, go for higher kill streaks. You will get them, you know. I mean, even if you don't think you can, try to get them, because it's going to happen. And it'll set a goal for you to improve. Anyway, like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. I'll see you next time. Gameplay, but God